2, 3, 4. Make America great again. Like the time when I was just 10. You could wander down to the fishing hole. Men were in the hills still shoveling the coal, and life was just great. We were American.
Welcome to Two Across, the podcast where two friends sitting on opposite sides of the Atlantic catch up over a crossword. I'm Theo, sitting in London.
And I am Rob, sitting in Montreal.
And we are recording this on the 6th of November, which is the day after the 5th of November, as the old rhyme goes over here. Remember, the 5th of November.
Yeah.
And I think it's needless to say, it's not a date that we are likely to forget this year.
A date that will live in infamy, potentially.
Indeed. Yes. So where do we start? Talk me through your experience of what has happened in the last 24 hours.
So listeners will have heard our little intro music, which I didn't think it'd ever go back there. This is something that the weekend after the last time this happened, and this, I guess we should let the cat out of the bag for people who have been living in a media vacuum. Donald Trump just got elected president of the United States, and when that happened 8 years ago, the weekend after, I was with my band at a retreat. We went out to a cottage somewhere way up by a lake in the middle of nowhere, and we were processing what had happened and sort of flabbergasted and numb by this whole thing. And we processed it by making that song, but I never thought it would come back. And this morning, so how I found out about it, I just went to bed last night. I'm like, I'm not going to stay up and follow this thing. And this morning, it's like, I'm not going to think about this. When I got up and I did my normal morning sit and all the things I do, and then I went for a walk, and then my wife sort of passed me on the path by the canal. She was going for a run, and she had the news, so she told me the news, and then I said, I'm going to join you on the run, and we commiserated. And it's an odd day to have received the news because, obviously amongst many things that the Trump presidency might not be good for is the fight against climate change. And it is 21 degrees and humid this morning on the 6th of November in Montreal. Now, to put that in perspective, there have been 6th of Novembers where there's been snow on the ground. And it's so that was kind of weird. Like, this is not normal weather. And so we're running in sort of in basically t-shirts on the 6th of November trying to process this thing. So what about you, Theo? You've had a 5-hour start on me. I mean, I'm just starting my day, so.
Yes, I decided that I was going to try and stay up for at least the exit polls, which came out about midnight over here. Although you don't really get the exit polls in the way we get them in the UK, which tend to give you a pretty accurate summary of what's going to happen on the night. In the US, it's much more kind of reading the tea leaves of the much smaller counts that came out first. And those initial readings were quite positive for Harris. So a bit like in 2016, what happened was I basically fell asleep on the sofa with the coverage on at the moment when it still very much felt like it was in the balance and could go either way. And then I woke up at about 5 a.m. to the news that, one of the first things I heard the announcer say was it's looking likely that Trump is now going to win the popular vote as well. And I just thought, what? Like this, it was like just like in 2016 when pretty much the same thing happened to me. When I went to sleep in a world, I went to sleep in a world where it was likely to be Hillary Clinton as president, and woke up in one where Donald Trump was. This time around, I woke up in this world where Donald Trump had not only won, but won by a sizable margin, which is, let's just cut to the chase. It's incredibly depressing. And I had to break it to my daughter, who they've all been talking about it at school, and they did a little chant yesterday for Kamala Harris, and she was asking me all the time for updates on what was happening yesterday, and she was really excited about it, and she is obviously gutted this morning, and my wife is absolutely devastated. She's a real political follower. She listens to lots of podcasts about it. I think like most politically inform people she had good reason to think Harris had a good chance. And turns out those turkeys just love a bit of Christmas. It's all I can say. It's difficult to know where to start. Twitter has been oddly comforting for me this morning, which is ironic considering its new owner. But let's not get into that particular rabbit hole. Just one of the many kind of memes flying around. One just said something along the lines of Trump may be a convicted felon. He may have incited an insurrection. He may have stolen classified documents. He may be this, that, the other. And then at the bottom it just says, but at least he's not a black woman, which is pretty much it, isn't it? I just don't think America has it in it to vote for a woman, let alone a black woman. And that is just a really depressing reality to face.
Yeah. And it's funny because obviously we're doing this podcast and I may sound American, but obviously I'm not and you are not. And we don't live in America, and we're having the same experience of everyone is riveted by this thing and watching it. And one of the things I thought about talking about last night before getting on the podcast today was just the fact of why are we so captivated by it? You know, like what is it about the American election that grabs us all? And I was sort of reflecting on that yesterday because in a sense, Trump will not be governing us, you know, and like I live in a country that is very different from the United States of America. We have a socialized healthcare system. We generally hew more to the progressive mainstream in terms of our views on gender, our views on same-sex marriage. In many senses, we are a very different place. Our views on education, for instance, which is generally quite cheap and available to all. We're a much more equal society. We have a social safety net that is not as strong, let's put it that way, in the United States of America. And yet we are riveted. And the results of this election will be felt by people much more emotionally than the results of our upcoming election whenever it occurs. And why is that? I can't get my head around it. And you guys, I mean, you're in the United Kingdom. There's an ocean that separates you. What happens in Germany and France, in many senses, is much more pertinent to your trade relationships, to your day-to-day, than what happens in the U.S. And yet, this is a visceral reaction that people in both countries are having. My daughter was the same this morning. She was completely bummed out learning the news. It's depressing.
I think it's because it has a cultural significance in a way that I don't think any other election in the world can rival. It feels like the American presidential election sort of sets or is the bellwether for where certainly the Western world, or the English-speaking world particularly, where it is culturally in terms of its attitudes. And I remember the elation of the Obama election. I remember that moment of just that feeling of a ceiling being smashed and, a page being turned. And I remember saying at the time of that it almost doesn't matter what happens during his term or his terms, as it turned out to be, but just the significance of the fact that he could be elected was huge. Yeah. And I think that's the thing. It's just the symbolism of who is elected matters almost more than the policies they represent. And I mean, I for one, I think like a lot of people, even though I followed this race fairly closely, I sort of slightly lost track of the policies and the minutiae of the sort of political ramifications. It was much more about, really, for me, a battle between right and wrong, and between decency and shamelessness, and between greed and hope, and all of the negative descriptors won. And that's just a depressing thing to wake up to. And I think as well, I heard a good thing from Rory Stewart, who was coming for a lot of flack today because he's a co-presenter of the Rest is Politics podcast, and he tweeted a couple of days ago a very sort of confident prediction that Harris was going to win. Yeah. And he listed his reasons, and he basically said, look, ignore the polls, that they're just overcompensating because they got it wrong in 2016. She's going to win comfortably. Yeah. And of course, that tweet has aged about as well as warm bottle of milk. But he's, he gave an interview this morning where he said, yeah, I'd rather be right for optimistic reasons. Be wrong for optimistic reasons. He just said, I don't think I really believed that the American people would do this. And that's it. Yeah, that is the thing. It's just disbelief today that they could sign up for another ride on that ghost train.
Yeah, but that's it. And that's the thing. Like, I think we find it hard to believe, Roy Stewart finds it hard to believe, because we dwell within our own society and we project our society inside of America. America, in many senses, is a vessel. We've been consuming their culture through their art and through everything else they put out through their sport all of our lives. Certainly for Canadians, that's the case. We live in the shadow of America and we are just blasted by America. But we're not American. And it's these results that lay bare just how fundamentally different the United States is from the rest of the liberal kind of Western order, and not even Western, more industrialized countries, because you can count Japan and other countries like that within that are much more aligned philosophically than we are with the United States. And this is my big contention right now, is that the US are increasingly coming untethered from the rest of us. And we have a choice right now. And anyone in Europe and elsewhere who's sitting there waiting for the post-Second World Order to come back and the US to be a responsible hegemon needs to look in the mirror, because it's been since 2016 that it's clear that close to a majority, and certainly in this case maybe a majority of Americans, really aren't there. That's not how they see the world. That's not where they're going. And you can't look at them as the guarantors of values that they don't even hold. Yeah. And so, yes, a lot of people do. And we all know Americans. I have a lot of close American friends, but we know Americans like us. That the reality is that there's a majority of Americans that aren't like us, that view things these ways and are willing. The thing that we've always talked about, Isabel and I, is just those red lines that you can't excuse. That no matter how much you might agree with a candidate's economic policy or policy on foreign policy, I'll put it that way, or any other policies, there's certain things that a candidate can't say or do, no matter how much you agree with the rest of their program. And Trump has crossed several dozen, if not hundreds of those red lines over the years for us. And so we see him as almost the Antichrist. And yet a lot of people say, yeah, he says these things, but ultimately I think he's going to be better for immigration. He's gonna bring the jobs back. So that's okay. We're gonna just, it's all overblown. He says these things, but it's like at some point you can't say shit like that. You cannot empower a discourse, especially when you have a podium like the president of the United States has. You can't. And yet they do. And for me, it just bears out the fact more and more, what I always say to Isabel, we are not American. It's just a fact. So this doesn't represent me. This is not a condemnation of my society. It's a condemnation of American society. And I apologize to American listeners, but you guys got some shit to work on. And that's how I feel.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. And I have a lot of American family members, which maybe makes me feel a little closer to America than maybe some other people in this country do. But I think I feel sorry for them actually today, because I think whereas we get to look on this from afar and perhaps decide increasingly to look to our own in response to this, and as you say, to no longer to look to America for any sort of, certainly any moral leadership. No. There are an awful lot of people in that country who will be feeling absolutely desperate today. Women, particularly.
Yes.
Let's be honest. I think it's we are white men in a foreign country. We have no idea how it feels to be a woman in America today. No. Who must just be. I mean, this is just the biggest 2 fingers up to your entire existence as far as I can see it. And much as I want to pull up the drawbridge a little bit to America and think it's nothing to do with me, I'll just hunker down and kind of put my head in the sand for 4 years, I also feel like I can't do that, because you've got to keep raging against the dying of the liberal light, because from wherever you are, because otherwise it will die. And
So that I agree with completely.
Let's see what the next few years brings. I refuse to give in completely to hopelessness. I really hope that things will not turn out as badly as they've widely been predicted to, in terms of what this will mean for democracy in America. But
what it'll mean for the world.
And what by extension that will mean for the world. And actually, yeah, for those of us in Europe, I think this does have very, very serious potential consequences in terms of the Ukraine war and how that may now escalate, or certainly leadership on that front is going to have to come from us. But having said that, Rob, we are forgetting that he said he'll solve it on day one. So, let's wait and see.
Yeah, but let's not. I mean, I think what you said, I completely agree with what you said. We cannot we cannot but rage against the dying of the liberal order. We have to hold that up. And if anything, if this is served, much like 2016, to galvanize those of us who might be too complacent and make us realize that we need to do something, and as societies we need to do something, and as Europe and so forth, the reality is that multilateralism needs to be restored, and it can't be the US dictating policy and everyone following in her wake. Is that Europe and the rest of the liberal order needs to circle the wagons, as it were, and decide what we're about and what we're going to fight for and how we're going to do it and how we're going to collaborate, because that is the strength of the liberal order. It's about together and working through our differences, we are stronger. And if we're able to do that, this is a great test, because we can't rely on the US to just sort of be the pater familias, literally, and tell us how things need to go and how things will be and we'll follow your foreign policy. Sorry, not going to work. And if Trump has been right about one thing from day one, and I don't like to give him a lot of credit, it's the fact that a lot of countries for years have not been pulling their weight. My country gives 1.3% of their GDP to NATO, or to the armed forces, despite our NATO commitment to meet 2%. I'm sorry. If you're going to be in an alliance with that commitment, you do it. And Canada has been delinquent forever. Canada, in general, is a delinquent country. We coast in the wake of the US. We coast in the wake of their economy. We coast in the wake of their culture. And then we say, oh, no, we're completely different. We're Canadian. We're unique. We're special. We're not Americans and stuff, like I said earlier. I mean, we're Janus with our two faces on that. And I'm a representative of it. And I recognize it. But we have to make clear who we are, what our values are, what we will stand for and what we won't. And then we have to work together with the people that see things the same way. And if we don't, we're fucked. That's the only way I can see it. And maybe this is a moment where we wake up to those responsibilities and we stop doing whatever America does. So anyway,
said.
As you can see, I have feelings.
I tell you what we need, Rob. I tell you what we and all our listeners need today. And that is the sweet distraction of a crossword. So let's get into it.
Yeah, let's not let the orange one dissuade us from our goal, which is to show you how to solve crosswords and to model good behavior, a good example of what modern masculinity could be.
Through the medium of wordplay. Yeah. Of puzzling.
Oh, Theo, it's depressing. That's all I can say.
It is depressing, Rob. It is depressing, and I was sort of wondering how to talk about it today and whether to be jocular and try and find the funny sides to this. But there aren't that many funny sides, really, are there? I mean, it is just... it's just pretty grim, however you look at it. One thing I did pick up, actually, just very quickly before we do begin the crossword, was, so one of the guests on the coverage I was watching last night she was hilariously introduced as Kamala Harris's best friend. I mean, that was her caption on the on Channel 4. Everyone else got like Boris Johnson, former Prime Minister, or Sean, what's his face, the awful former press secretary, Sean Spicer. He was one of the guests. Anyway, they all, oh god, what a
the crowd guy
character. Yeah, the crowd guy. They all got their official titles, and she got Kamala Harris's best friend, which I just thought was sort of ridiculous, but quite sweet in one way. Anyway, they met in Montreal, is the reason I bring it up, because Kamala Harris went to high school in Montreal, which I didn't
Kamala Harris went to
realise.
my children's high school, my friend.
Oh, my word. Connection.
Yeah, she did. She went to West Mountain High, which is where my two eldest children go. So that's a little claim to
Oh,
fame.
how nice. Well, there
Kamala
you go.
Harris and Leonard Cohen.
So your poor daughter has extra reason to feel affronted this morning.
Let's go to the crossword, because crossing words is fun.
Right, let's crack on. So we're doing crossword number, Guardian Crit crossword, I should say, number 17,006. That was a terrible way of saying 17,006. So we have crossed.
You could have said
the
006.
millennia. I could have said 006. You're so right. What a shame it's not 7. Never mind. 17,006. And as always, we will have a timer of 30 minutes, which I'm about to set off. And we haven't seen any of the clues in advance, so we are going in blind. We don't use any form of checking. So, yeah, let's crack on. Do you want to take us to the first clue?
Just one thing to note in terms of momentous things, arguably more momentous than what happened in the United States in the middle of the night, is that we have entered a new crossword millennium, and I think we should underline that point. This will not come again. This is like a supermoon. It's not going to come again for at least 3 years, because if it's 3 times 365 to get over the next 1,000 or a little bit less.
Right, actually. Yeah.
So I think we should underline that fact. This is a moment.
Maybe Series 6 will cross into the new one. Yeah.
I would like to take this opportunity to say that I hope that at 18,000 we're still doing this. We shall see.
Amen. Right. Oh, what a cross is nice, which is e.g. Bob Dylan or Albert Einstein, 5'8".
Wow, what do they have in common? I think they're both Jewish.
Yes. They are
Both
also
nuclear physicists.
winners of... Yes. Bob Dylan, known for his insights into relativity.
Yes.
Nobel winners, do we think?
Did he win a Nobel for what? For poetry or for...
I'm sure, yeah, Dylan got the Nobel Prize for literature, didn't he?
Did he?
And refused to collect it because he's like that. But winners, Nobel fits, but not... Oh, laureates. Nobel laureates.
Well, let's look, because we've got going down to take from the Nobel. We have one down is a water nymph, which would be 5 letters long and starting an N if it's Nobel. 2 down is an aesthetically pleasing literary works, origin in French, would start with O, and that's 6 letters, 7 letters, running the length of the crossword.
So that could be Beau something, couldn't it? But
yes, but it's not. It would have to be.
That fits.
No, it doesn't fit. It would have to be belle, actually. It could be belle oeuvre, but that doesn't make sense. It does fit.
And then 3 down is kind of leather, 8 letters beginning with, if it is Nobel, beginning with L.
Yeah. Lamb's skin or lambskin or something like that.
Don't know. That would be unusual.
Would it? I guess there's calfskin leather. Okay.
Calf skin. That's much more likely. I think my Nobel laureate doesn't work.
No. Let us return to that. Let's go to a totally different part of the crossword. I feel this could get us tangled up.
Good
and
call.
just go somewhere completely different. So let's take 15 down because it's a multiple worder.
Yeah.
It is at the bottom of the crossword, and it is depart. 3 letters, 3 letters. Depart.
Set off.
Yeah. Yeah, good one. All right.
Okay. I'm getting an annoying pop-up advert coming up over my crossword, which is...
Nastiness.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have 4 years now of the Guardian saying, we're helping to protect democracy against orange people.
Yeah, this is true.
Please give wisely, give generously.
I always think when they talk about Harris being a person of colour, I'm like, well, it's 2 people of colour, really, isn't it? It's just one of those colours is orange. He is extraordinary. I mean, obviously his face is just everywhere this morning. It's impossible not to look at the horrendous orb, and it is. The longer you look at it, the more baffling it becomes. You know, like where? How is his hairline so white and his forehead so orange and his eyes are? It just doesn't work as a face, and his hair is obviously ludicrous. I mean, he's such an odd figure. I just find myself ever more baffled.
But
you know, I've given up trying to understand.
Well, speaking of people of color, Theo, we've got 19 down.
Yeah.
Tennis player after whom a stadium at Flushing Meadows is named. 4 letters.
So it could be the surname King, because there's a Billie Jean King.
Yep, but it's not.
Stadium.
Oh, you're right. It could be the surname King. Shoot. Okay, I was thinking of the main stadium, which is named after Arthur
Ashe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it could be, Ashe or King would work.
Oh shoot, I didn't think.
Well, let's get an across. Offering good value for money, 4-9.
Yes, and if it's Ashe, the first letter of the 9 is an E, and if it's King, it's a G. The third letter of that 9 is an F. Offering good value for money. Oh dear.
So I think it's more likely to be Ashe, because I think that word is more likely to begin with an E.
Yeah. Oh, cost effective.
Yes, perfect. There you go.
There you go. So
okay, we're moving, Rob.
We finally got a big one. This is, because I have to admit, this feels, you know those times in life where it just feels like everything is a loss? Everything is just, they're piling up. Like
that today.
The Canadians went up 3-1 yesterday in the third, and then the goal was disallowed and they lost in overtime, which I found out this morning at the same time as I found out Trump won. Yeah, well, that's the as they say in where I'm from, la moindre des choses, but one of those ones, and you're just expecting to get a memo that your dog has died or something, or some other calamity, which hopefully will not happen.
Yeah.
All right.
Country using the pound as its currency.
Yes.
Ooh, this reminds me of something that happened to me last week over half term, which I was very proud of and determined to boast about on the podcast. Kate and I went out for an evening when we were in Devon, and we went to the local pub in the village of Kingswear, and they were having a pub quiz that night. So we signed up as a 2-person team, and we won, Rob, which is the reason I'm sharing this story, which obviously we were immensely proud of. Kate told me off because I then showboated around the pub. I insisted on going over to the quizmaster and introducing myself, and I dread to imagine what all those regulars must have made of us. But anyway,
DFLs down from London.
I was down from London's swooping in and winning their quiz. Anyway, one of the questions was, name 2 other countries besides the UK which use the pound.
Oh, okay, so you've got this one.
Currency.
And
well, Rob, I now can't remember what the answers were, because that was one question that we did not get correct. One of them is, I think, Egypt.
It's got to be Egypt, but then no, but I think it does, and cost effective is wrong because
really.
Yes. Oh, cost efficient probably, because 21 across is an evergreen vine, and it would very much enjoy the Y that you are proposing in its space.
Perfect. So if it is Egypt, then cost efficient is, yes, that all works. And I think cost efficient is more likely, isn't it?
And also I didn't like the I of effective as the last letter of 6 down. It looked weird. 12 down, I just saw, which I think we can get, which is a 8-letter clue for divided into separate installments, and it ends in a C.
Go on.
I think it's episodic.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And to keep moving, I think 17 across, now that we have the E for Egypt, is a valuable rock. 8 letters, second letter E, fourth letter S, and last letter E. And I believe that is a gemstone.
Gemstone. Rob, you're on fire today.
Yeah, well, I think
Glad one of us is.
I think today is a day where we're going to get carried away on strong tangents, given the...
Yeah, there's a lot.
So-
It's definitely one of those days in the world where it feels like everything's a little bit up in the air.
Oh, my God.
So, not least the peace of aforementioned world. So,
Yes. Well, Theo,
Yes.
you are 14 across on that point, which is absolutely correct. 4 letters, 2 letters. And the second letter is a P of the first word.
So I would be spot on.
You are spot on, my friend. I tell you a little secret.
Oh, go on.
I have not read any news today, and I think I'm going to go on a 1-week detox because
Yeah,
Isabel
good
told
idea.
me about Trump. And I was saying to someone at the bus stop this morning, I don't think I can see that smiling, smug son of a bitch of a face. It will drive me into a fury. And so I think I'm just not going to consume news for at least a week and just go on a media diet. Anyway, that's
I
apropos
think
de
that's
rien.
very, very smart. Go off grid, as they say.
And then with little warning, I will go back on grid, which is 6 down, 2 letters, 5 letters, 6 letters.
With little warning.
Yeah.
So I think this could be at short notice,
Oh, perfect, Theo, because...
which means Nobel laureate is potentially back in play.
Oh, still in the running. Okay, well, let's not exclude it just yet. I have to admit that water nymph one down, I have had it on a crossword before, and it's something super obscure, like something Wagnerian, as I recall. And I think it did start with N.
Okay.
Anyway, let's get that when we get it. Member of a
Yeah.
Pueblo people living chiefly in northeastern Arizona. That's 11 down, space O, space, space. I might have an idea.
I think you're much more likely to get this than me.
I think it could be a Hopi Indian, so Hopi. Yeah.
Good.
It's
Yeah.
interesting in the United States they will more readily use the term Indian, and I mean indigenous peoples will use it to self-describe. Whereas in Canada that word went out of favor a long time ago. We used to have the Department of Indian Affairs, for instance, whereas now we say First Nations and then the Métis and the Inuit as our 3 kind of indigenous
Okay.
groups. But in the U.S., Indian is still very much done. I don't know why I brought that up, but anyway.
No, it is an interesting point, and you certainly wouldn't use that word here and now either.
No.
But yeah, it's amazing that it really stuck, considering how wrong it was, and that they knew it was wrong.
Well,
but anyway, yeah.
a funny similarity would not apply to a people, but to a place. But in Montreal, and not far from here, there is a place called La Chine, Lachine, which in French literally means the China. It's China. That's what China is in French, La Chine. And so the story goes, the explorers, when they made it that far and they hit these rapids, there was this sort of, on the St. Lawrence, there's a series of rapids when you get to Montreal. That's why Montreal's here, because it was the place where you had to build kind of canals to get the shipping through, and it has a natural port once you get through the rapids. And the rapids are called the Lachine Rapids. And there was this sort of theory that on your way to China, because they thought they were going to do that by going west far enough, they believed there would be rapids. And this was, okay, well, this is a sign we're getting to China because there are these rapids. So they called it Lachine, which was obviously just halfway around the world from where they thought they were getting. So their knowledge of the size of the
story.
Earth.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
I mean, it makes a refreshing change from just calling it basically an English place name with
Yes.
a different word in front of it, like, New York, etc. But
Yeah.
I suppose that doesn't happen quite so much in Canada, does it?
Oh, it does. Halifax.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
Toronto used to be called
Not far
York.
from where I grew up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, we're not immune to imitating.
I mean, that's lazy,
the mother
isn't
country.
It? Let's just stick a name that we've already got.
Yeah, exactly.
So this one is a quick low hanger, which I think does confirm Nobel laureate. So 5 down.
Give her.
It's blank McElroy. 4
Right.
letters, which is obviously Rory.
Yep.
So that must be, it has to be laureate.
Okay, well, let's keep working. I think I want to make my way up from the bottom if you're willing.
Absolutely. But you work from the bottom as much as you like, Rob.
I like to work from the bottom. It's just my
Sure.
way. Flexible ending in C. It's 7 letters long. And
Yeah, go on.
like a flexible band, for instance, that you might put around your wrist.
Elastic.
Yeah, I think that fits, eh? Because
Lovely.
16 across, taking that A, 4 letters long, is a kind of sax, starting in A. So I believe the saxes are named,
Oh, alto.
yeah, similar to the singing ranges.
Lovely.
I do love a bass sax, like in Fela Kuti, you know, when you get the giant sax that just, it's such a like,
Stirring.
yeah, kind of grisly sound. Brink, starting in T. I think this is going to be an English word, English as in British. T, starting, and then the 5th letter is an S, the 7th letter is an O, and the ultimate letter is a D. Brink.
So if you're at the brink, you're obviously on the edge.
Yeah.
So there are so many different kinds of edges.
I know.
Damn it. And that S blank O blank D at the end. What could be between the O and the D? Must it be an L, do we think?
Yeah, could be an L. Could be an N, but an L sounds good. It could be another O, but probably not. Let's try and get another letter, which is going to be hard. We're going to have to get that obliquely.
We're gonna have to get the long one.
Yeah, so I think what about a chocolate covered confection, which would give us another letter in the long one? It is 6 letters and it starts in an E.
We got lots of these, obviously, last week.
And they are?
They are, as in, no, I was just thinking we got lots of chocolate covered confections.
Oh, okay. I thought you had this one because I don't.
Hang on. Let me think.
Chocolate
Earth.
covered.
Because you would say bonbon. No, but bonbons aren't chocolate covered.
No.
Oh, Rob.
Okay, well let's not okay, I think unfortunately we're gonna have to probably go up and reckon with this. Oh my gosh. How's your Greek mythology, Theo? Mine's really bad.
Is this the nymph?
No, this
Question.
is the daughter of Zeus. Daughter of your dog,
I should know
in fact.
this. I was going to say.
6 letters long, and if laureate is correct, it would start with an A.
Artemis.
Oh, nice. No, it doesn't fit.
Doesn't fit. Damn it.
No.
Not Artemis.
Oh, my children will literally be screaming if they hear this because they've read all the Trials of Apollo and all the Reardon books.
Now, it's not... And again, my daughter would get this in a heartbeat. Could it be Aurora is another guess.
Yeah, that would fit. He had a lot of daughters, didn't he?
He had loads. Children of Zeus, it's like children of Genghis Khan. I mean, there are so many of them.
We are all descended from Zeus. If you did a 23andMe, you would find that you had one ancestor fairly far back who'd lived on Mount Olympus.
He was always transforming himself into some animal and copulating with some fairy.
I mean, essentially raping, right? Like he would take on a pleasing form. A swan, I believe, in one case, if I'm not mistaken.
Swan was definitely one of them. Yeah. So someone once actually said to me in the park when I told them the name of my dog, he said, "Oh, it must be his latest guise," which I thought was quite nice. The idea that he can transform into a Shih Tzu.
Into a Shih Tzu. This is what he's decided.
Yes, this is just his latest anthropomorphication. No, that's the wrong word.
No, Oh no, you're right.
Yeah.
No, the opposite.
His latest. Well, whatever it's called. There is
Caninization.
Canine. Yeah, let's go with that. Okay, we don't have time, Rob, for this.
No, okay. Version, 7 letters. It's 7 down. And it would be starting with E if laureate is correct. The third last letter I and the last letter N. So you could imagine that being I-O-N, and it starts in E. A version. For instance, a version of a periodical or of a newspaper. Yeah.
Yeah. Well done.
Yeah.
So 9 across, Hindu sage.
I know, I was looking at that. given my years of yogic training and so forth, I should have this, but I don't. Oh, no.
Oh, this is on the tip of my tongue. And
Oh, Maharishi.
yes, that's it. Yes. Thank you.
Think of the Beatles.
I was thinking of the Beatles. So are we spelling that Marhrishi?
We are. And
Okay.
that does get rid of... Oh, it's Athena, my friend, of course.
It's Athena, not Aurora. Oh, God.
Arguably his best-known
Silly me.
daughter. I think we should...
Yes, of course.
There should be some self-flagellation after the show, which we'll put in for subscribers-only content. Theo and I
should have a bonus episode where we
flagellate.
rake over our mistakes and yes, whip ourselves with olive branches or whatever you do. 3 down then is, so this kind of leather has a third, it could be lambskin.
If it starts in L and it's got a third letter of M, I think it's lambskin.
Let's just do it.
You
We
who
haven't
grew
got
up in
time
a
for-
land of lambs, didn't your
know,
mum send you out in your lambskin? Have a cold day? Or is that how she sent you to your first high school dance? Don't forget your lambskins, boy. So, moving away from our lambskin, if we're to believe that that's correct, we now have a 10 across, which is a bandage, and it is 8 letters long. The fourth last letter is an S, and then a space, an N, and a space. I think if we think of it in the sense of something, that Florence Nightingale would have put on the wound of a soldier who'd had some shrapnel through the head, you would call that a dressing.
Oh, dressing, yeah. Nice. I think I was overthinking that. I can get us 8 across as well, I think, which...
Ooh, do it.
Just looking at the clue.
Yeah.
The clue is ailing and it's 3 letters, so could that just be ill?
Yeah, I think so. License 2, as the Beastie Boys.
License to ill.
License to Ill. So good. Okay, so here, Theo, I think we're going to put in Nobel. I think it is now. And well done on that. I would not have found that commonality. I was thinking New Yorkers. Anyway. So I think now aesthetically pleasing literary works origin in French is B space L space E space. So that's got to be belle.
So it's got to be Belle.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah. So then it's...
Over to you on the French.
I'm struggling. And I think like our water nymph is, I think it's one of those in the ring cycle or whatever, N space I space D.
Yeah.
I think it's like a naiad or something like that, like NAIAD or something like that.
Oh, God.
Anyway, we're not going to get it. So
No.
we're not going to get it by
We're going to have to
force of
just
brain.
guess it, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
I did once listen to the entire ring cycle because I
Did you?
just thought I should, but I can't remember any names of characters or anything.
Did it stir up
Sadly.
any of your Teutonic roots and make you think of striding across the steppe on your charger with your 2-handed broadsword?
And my conical breasts.
Yes.
Yes. No, sadly, it more. No, it's obviously stirring stuff, but it is long. I mean, there's no two ways about it. It's a heck of a slog. It felt like one of those things that one should do at some point in one's life, like reading War and Peace, the kind of musical equivalent.
Yes.
And which is, by the way, something I've never done, reading War and
Really?
Peace. So.
Highly worth it.
Yeah, I think I remember you recommending it, and I must do that. Maybe this winter. Maybe this is the winter. Maybe it's the perfect winter to get into something like that.
It might be. Since this is the winter of our discontent, might as well
Double
people
down.
it with some Tolstoy. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Theo, I think I have 2 down. The aesthetically pleasing literary works.
Go on.
I believe they are called belles lettres.
Lettres. Yes.
Yeah. So I think,
Beautiful.
good. Theo, that we're moving here. I think we're going to be able to get this, notwithstanding Naiad, because Brink is now T space R space S space O space D.
Oh, threshold.
A threshold.
Sorry, I did that thing again where I tapped in the goal that you just very
No.
openly set up.
No. But
I was just so excited.
That was the goal.
To get it.
The goal was to set that up and watch you knock it in. Watch you on the threshold with your foot, cocked and ready to just smash it through. So it all worked out.
Sort of Shakespearean, isn't it? Threshold.
Yes.
Like it. I've just finished reading Hamnet, actually. Which,
I've heard good things about it.
Finally got to the end of. Yeah, it is. It's very, very good. I don't know if enjoy is the word, seeing as it primarily focuses on the death of a child, but it's really well done and really puts you into the world of Shakespearean England and the somewhat difficult life of his wife, Anne, or Agnes as she's called in the book, which she doesn't get much attention, poor thing. And I'd recommend it anyway. 13 across. So this chocolate covered confection, come on, we've got to get this, because
I thought I had it for a second, and then it's
I've got it. It's eclair.
Of course, because it's a confection. I mean, it's not. I was thinking like a little chocolate you get out of a box, but a confection is not that.
We have one to fill in, which is in the bottom right, 21 across, evergreen vine.
Yeah.
Which is 3 letters.
Starting in I and ending in Y.
Yeah, we won't patronise by...
Certainly not.
Spelling that one out.
We don't do that here.
No, we don't. It's obviously icy.
Yes. I love a bit of icy, especially at Christmas. The holly and the icy. It's...
Yeah. Christmas isn't Christmas without the holly and the icy.
No, it really isn't.
We now have 3 minutes to get this nymph, this water nymph, which is one down, N blank I blank D.
She is elusive.
Water
3 minutes may not be enough time for us to snare her.
Oh!
Yeah.
No.
Oh,
No.
darn.
I thought
You were thinking naughty?
I was actually thinking, could it be Neve? Like... a kind of, but I don't even think it's spelled.
It doesn't fit.
And obviously there's a D at the end, so none of that works. So let's forget that. This is annoying.
Maybe this is how it all comes around. We should let the water nymph go free. Not try to hem her in, or as Trump said, protect her even if she doesn't like it.
Oh, God.
Sorry for bringing that back.
Please. I kept thinking of this image of the world being a lift and America just trumping all over it, and everyone else in the lift sort of flinching and thinking, oh, they haven't again, have they?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah, they have. And just stinking up.
And then you're all stuck in it. And then the elevator stops between floors and you're stuck for 4 years smelling that thing.
And I think that's the thing about the US election, going back to that initial conversation. The reason we all feel it so strongly is because it does just stink up the world. Whatever the outcome, you can't help but sort of breathe in the wafts emanating from across the Atlantic, which in this case are obviously particularly
odious
and odious and
malodorous.
Yes.
I'll tell you though, that comment of, I love women, we're going to protect women even if they don't like it. If you put those words in the mouth of a Talib in Afghanistan, it would not sound out of place. We're going to protect women even if they don't like it. It's sort of this, it was actually terrifying. No,
it is terrifying. There's so much you could pick out from those rambling speeches that he gives that... Okay, but anyway, more importantly, we have 20 seconds left.
Naiad,
so we've got to come up with a guess.
Naiad. I'm calling it. I'm not saying I'm right, but I'm going to call it.
That's a lot of vowels.
I know.
You don't want to go Ned? No, because that's...
Sure. No. Yeah.
No.
Up to you.
I prefer yours.
All right.
Let's go Naiad.
Right.
It's going to... There's the thing.
Okay, before we check Naiad, I actually want to see what it is. Naiad, female spirit or nymph in Greek mythology. In Greek mythology, the naiads, sometimes also hydriads, are a type of female spirit or nymph presiding over fountains, wells, springs, streams, brooks, and other bodies of fresh water.
Rob.
Kabam.
Out the park, my friend.
I think we got this.
Okay, let's do a check all. We're right on everything. We haven't misspelled apart from I misspelled Maharishi.
We called it out. Maharishi.
Yeah. I think I just wrote it in wrong.
Yeah, because we called that out. I think we could roll back the tape to anyone who's going to challenge this picture.
Thank you. Yeah, we're taking this one.
Crosswords done. That was fun. Now let's have a chat.
We need this. The world needs this today, Theo.
The world needs this.
The world needed us to get this
done. What the world needs now is love, sweet love, and some slack on crossword spellings.
Yeah. A little slack.
So
I think we can give that to ourselves today. A little self-care today, Theo. Might not be out of the question. That's what the liberal world just needs to give itself a little bit of self-care today. Maybe get its nails done. Forget all about all this unpleasantness, and we can figure it all out tomorrow over a nice bottle of rosé.
Talking of self-care, you may be able to hear a sort of squelching sound in the background. That is Zeus giving himself some self-care.
Well done.
really getting his tongue deep into those crevasses.
Yeah.
God, dogs are disgusting animals, but we love them so. It was his birthday yesterday, by the way.
Oh, well done, Zeus.
I was going to say at the top of the show, something monumental happened yesterday that will forever live in infamy, and it was my dog's 4th birthday. Which is totally meaningless. A very odd birthday as well for a dog to have, the 5th of November.
It is.
Because they will get traumatized by the fireworks. So, yeah.
And yet he's such a calm soul.
He is a calm soul and doesn't actually get too traumatized by the fireworks. My mum had a Shih Tzu when she was a kid who ran away on fireworks night, very sadly, and never returned.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
True
and
story.
so a dog has been returned to your family several years later on the same day. Again, there's a novel in there, Theo. Circle of caninery.
Life. Yes. I'm really pleased we got that today. That means we're 4-3 ahead for the series. So
4-3 ahead. And this has been
nice.
We're very symmetrical. We're win-loss, 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 win in season 2 so far.
We are very symmetrical. Now, we did go on a bit at the top of the show, so we should probably avoid that subject in our closing notes.
But I feel that we have that right.
But today is a an unusual day in terms of it being a very significant event that I think does merit discussion. But nevertheless, I remember last time you did say there were a few points of business that you hadn't had time to cover.
Do we want to do that now?
Do you want to do it now? I don't know, Rob. Do you want to do it at all? This is down to you.
It feels it comes from a deep, dark past. But Theo, I will bring one thing out, which I think is relevant in my little notes to discuss on Two Across, that I think is maybe a nice light way to end it. So I was reading this piece on the BBC this week about the infinite monkey theorem. And you've probably heard the infinite monkey theorem, that if you either took an infinite number of monkeys and put them on typewriters, or you gave one monkey an infinite lifespan and a typewriter, it would eventually produce the complete works of Shakespeare, right?
Yeah.
Back to Hamnet and our friend Shakespeare, who I think makes an appearance in Crosswords every sort of 3 episodes. So it's apropos of our medium. Yeah. So this tidbit, which I'll read out from the BBC, a new peer-reviewed study led by Sydney-based researcher Stephen Woodcock and Jay Falletta has found that the time it would take for a typing monkey to replicate Shakespeare's plays, sonnets, and poems would be longer than the lifespan of the universe. And so they have disproved the infinite monkey theorem.
Wow.
On that basis. So they ran the numbers, because it's basically the whole thing is on probability, right? That any event could occur, however unlikely. For instance, my physics teacher used to like to tell us that if you stood for long enough, you would watch a table jump up off the ground, because at some point, all of the randomly moving molecules would just move all in the same direction for a split instant and the table would jump off the ground. Of course, you might have to stand there longer than the lifespan of the universe. But anyway, I guess that this caught in their craw these two Sydney-based researchers, and they were like, no, absolutely not. This is not going to work. And so they crunched the numbers and they realized that the lifespan of the universe is not long enough for the monkey to achieve that task. So Shakespeare is safe.
Which actually has interesting implications for the notion of infinity. Because essentially there is no infinity. That is a nonsense.
It's a mind fuck.
On which note?
Rob,
can I request that we play the show out with the full version of your song, Make America Great Again, which I didn't give due attention to at the top of the show, but I do have to say, I think it's a really good song. I think it's actually, genuinely, you've really sort of captured something there, and it rather amusingly sent my Spotify algorithm into a wormhole of kind of hillbilly country songs. Once I'd listened to it. So, yeah, but I did like it. And I think it does capture something of, what lies behind what has happened in the last 24 hours.
And sadly, Theo, what lies ahead of us. And I just...
Yeah.
I think like many people, most people, we just didn't think that this was going to happen again. And here it is. And I didn't really ever want to hear that song. So, again, I would have happy for it to have been consigned to the dustbin of Spotify history. But if you ever do want to find this song, it is under the artist's name, very apropos for this morning, Fight on America, Trump Wins, which was a cheeky little take on the name of my band of the time, which was Friend of All the World. And we didn't want to release it under our name. And so we took the acronym and repurposed it to create Fight on America, Trump Wins. So if you look for that artist, you'll see one song called Make America Great Again, which we will go out on. So Theo, if you care to take our listeners off into the sunset with a little bit of hillbilly Trumpist propaganda.
Thank you, Rob. You've been listening to Two Across, a podcast by Theo Bosanquet and Rob Cole. We hope you've enjoyed yourselves. Do follow us on Twitter at twoacrosspod, or you can email us on twoacrosspod@gmail.com. We would love to hear your thoughts. And yes, we promise we will move on to other subjects next week beyond the political realm. But in the meantime, thank you very much for joining us, and à bientôt.
2, 3, 4. Make America great again, like the time when I was just 10. You could wander down to the fishing hole. Men were in the hills still shoveling the coal, and life was just great. We were American. Make America great explore, like the time when I was 24. God and family and apple pie was all a man would need to get by. And when we met a crook, well, we lock him up. I'm not saying that I'm against trade, but the first things first, we gotta get paid. And if it don't work, then we tear it up. Make America great, it's time. Like the time when I was 49, when there were bad guys with names like Saddam, got their butts whooped by their Uncle Sam. We had men like Bush and Buchanan, and you didn't have to worry if the president was Kenyan. Nope, we were American. Well, there were times in the liberal 90s I'd pray to God pretty much nightly. I saw America wrapped in chains, and I saw the whole world going insane. And I wondered if she'd be great again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make America great again, like the time when I was just 10. For liberal hoaxes banned all the coal. Damned if the country didn't have a soul. All I want's a commander-in-chief who can sing all the words to songs by Toby Keith. Doesn't eat kale when there's great beef. on Wall Street. Yeah, is that too much to ask?